morning. So this vehicle really has two purposes in life: to crawl really big rocks, and then the other purpose is just the family beach buggy. So kind of got some downtime here in the winter. We're going to take apart clutches today and rebuild the primary and the secondary. My first piece of advice is, if you do not do a lot of mud, is get you a quick disconnect on this clutch cover. It makes life a lot easier, especially when having to blow out the clutches every ride. The pdrive is supposed to be better, but takes a lot more maintenance. So we'll kind of go through and show you the process on how to take these apart, doing the maintenance kit. It's got about 1,200 miles on it right now, so we'll see kind of what everything looks like. So the 22 millimeter takes that KWI bolt out, and then you'll need a 19 millimeter for the drive puller pulley. So you just screw it in and get your 19 millimeter, and you're just gonna tighten this up. Until it pushes that pulley off. And then you can back it out. And get your drive pulley off. So we got both out. Primary, we're gonna start with that. I just have the KWI clutch kit. I did buy, this is the BRP product. It's their little vise holder. So I do have that just to help with things. But things you wanna check on the primary are these little rollers. They wear down pretty quick. So we're gonna change those out today. And then we're going to take it all apart. I am going to change this bearing here because, like I said, running down the beach in the salt water really eats these things up. So we're going to go ahead and change that today, and then go ahead and take everything apart and just grease everything and make sure it looks good. On the secondary, I'm going to go ahead and change the rollers on this secondary. Like I said, these are the stock rollers, and they really don't look bad, but while we have it apart, I'm going to go ahead and change those, just because I said it's got about 1,200 miles on it. And then we're going to adjust the spring, because I kind of adjust that based on what I'm going to do and how we're going to ride. So that's going to be the plan for the day. So this is what I like about this little clutch holding device. Fits nice in the vise and lets you kind of put everything and hold it together. So we're gonna take these two, the flange screws out here, they're a T40 bit, and then start taking this thing apart. So after you take those T40s out, this will kind of drop down, and then you put your governor cup puller on here, tighten all these. These are M8s by 55s, and then tighten everything so it's holding on to the cup there, and it'll pull. Go ahead and pull everything off. So we'll tighten this down and get it pulled. Okay, so once you tighten that up, as you're tightening it, what you're gonna see is it'll go from about that, and it'll pop up over that piece there, and then you're good. And then you can set it back down, take your governor puller off, take your bolt out, and then this just slides off. So you can see a little bit of wear right here. Slow crawling in the rocks, I think, is kind of a tricky thing for belts. So I'm gonna try to just kind of clean this up a little bit for now. At some point I'll probably have to get this remachined, send it off to KWI or something. But you can see it's a little O-ring here, and we're gonna change this bearing out. but you can see how this is already starting to get rust on it. That's just from good old salt water. So we're gonna change all this out and then start taking apart the rest of the primary. Okay, so I got everything changed out, new bearing. It's just this little C-clip right here. You just open it up and slide it off. And then this little sleeve will slide. You've got a couple shims that you need to look out for. Just make sure you put those back. Got some Scotch-Brite pads and tried to clean this up, but you can see it's definitely got a little groove there. So at some point, maybe next go around, to get this machined. All right, so I'm gonna take the rest of this apart. The nice thing about this little vise holder is you get this piece that screws in, so then you can just slide this down and it'll compress this so you can take off that clip, but it makes it pretty easy. So once that's compressed, you got this little clip here, so we're gonna pop that off and then you can unscrew everything and take it out. So once you get that C-clip out, you can take everything off and pull your spring out, and then you can start taking the rest of this apart. So I said, then this top part just comes right off, and then you can get to your rollers. You can get to your little arms and change everything. We're also gonna take these little rollers up here apart and grease them. All right, so next step is pulling out all these little pins, which can be easier said than done because you don't want to break them. So try to pull them out straight, and then we'll back these screws out with the little hammer tool and change our little plastic rollers. Finally got all the pins out. They can be pretty stubborn. They're kind of pressed in there. So now we're going to take the hammer tool from KWI here. You thread it in on this side, and then you can hammer it out from there. So that's how it's hooked up there. And I said then you just take and hammer this out. You just want to stay straight as possible to hammer it straight out. I got everything cleaned out. So now we're just gonna, I said put your new rollers on and then line up your holes. And then we're gonna tap those back into place. Okay, so I got everything back in place. I said the biggest thing is just aligning your pieces up right. And then when you're pushing these pins back in, you got to make sure those two holes are directly lined up, because once you get into this second side back here, it's really hard to turn. So you want to do that before you get all the way into this side here, and that way everything's lined up and you can push your pins back in without getting in a bind, because they only send you one set. So if you mess one up, you're gonna have to order a new piece. But that's everything on this piece. So now we're gonna take the rollers out of the upper piece and grease them. All right, so this is the same process as before. You take the screw out on this side. They are not tight, so you don't need an impact or anything. And then put your hammer back on, screw it into this side, and hammer that pin out. And then you can take these little bearings out and just keep your washers. But we're gonna clean these up. Use the grease that KWI sends. It's, I think, super expensive if you try to buy a tube of it, or you can't find it, one of the two. But we're gonna grease these up, clean them up, and then put everything back in, and then we'll go and do each one of these. All right, so I think they make a tool for packing these little bearings here. I just took some Scotch-Brite and cleaned them up, got all the grime off of them, and then use that Isoflex grease and just make sure all the little needle bearings in there are moving, and you can put some grease in there. I meant to buy that little tool that they make and I just forgot, so next time. But you can actually take and like clean all the grease out of these and pack them. All right, so that's everything. Just took Scotch-Brite and cleaned these up. Really don't have a whole lot of movement. I think you can replace the bushings on either side. But everything looks good, so got it greased up. They're spinning really well. So, and then they got all the rollers changed, and then the same thing, Scotch-Brite on the arms, and just cleaned everything up. So when you go to put everything back together, underneath the little arms it has numbers, and so you just line them up to the numbers that are on here, and that way you can get everything back together right. You want to be sure when you get this set back on top of here that this little piece right here is dividing these two. So you want the inside one rubbing on this piece, and then you want this outside rubbing on this inner sheave here. So make sure that, like I said, make sure it's like that all the way around, so that everything is going to open up like it's supposed to. All right, so putting the primary drive or the driver pulley back together, putting the flange screws on. It gives you a pattern to tighten them in, and then 24 foot-pounds. So we're getting this all tightened up, and then we should be good. All right, so when you get to the secondary, this little vise holder is also nice because this all-thread rod from KWI threads into it, and then it makes it very easy to compress this. I said I changed my spring rate on the secondary based on kind of where we're going and what we're going to do, and what size tires I've got on. So makes it easy for me to do this pretty quick. And so we're going to take this part, you just compress it down, spin this, and then lift it back up, just so you take the tension off the secondary rollers here. So you just spin it that way, and then you're able to lift this whole thing up. Spring comes out, you can adjust your spring rate, and then we're going to go ahead and change secondary rollers. Got it all the way compressed down here, you can see. So we're going to go ahead and, so now you flip it over and take these bolts out on the bottom, and then you can go ahead and lift this up by rotating this and then backing this nut off. Got it flipped upside down. So these are 13 millimeter or T50. You can either one, and just impact these out. So as you're backing this off, right before you come out of these secondary rollers here, I just use a long 3/8 extension, and then you just slide it in here, and you're just gonna, you can twist it. So you're just gonna twist it off of that roller and then finish backing this up. All right, so I got the 3 bolts taken out here. Those were T20s, and they were not in very tight at all. So now we're gonna try to take these secondaries out, which from what I've gathered from research can be rather tough. So we're gonna see, I did get the Whelen tool, so we're gonna see how that does. All right, so I thought I'd video this. It's my first time taking these rollers out. I could see if you're trying to use the hammer tool, this would be super challenging, but I said I got one out. Didn't have to use any heat on it. So what I'm doing is just slowly backing this out. You attach this tool here, it screws into that bearing in here. What's nice, I don't know if you can see it, but that little screw actually fits inside that hole. So you can, what I've been doing is just slowly backing, I said pressing this out, and then as I press it out, screw this piece in so I get more and more thread bite, and then that way you have a less chance of stripping it. But so far it's going okay, so we're gonna see if we can get the rest of them out. Okay, so we are back. We got all the new rollers from Whelen Speed put in. I only had a couple issues. I had one where that screw got stuck, but thank goodness they give you another one. The other thing that I would recommend doing is, just in case, give you a little bit of extra help, is these are M4 by 0.7. So I got, they send one nut, which got stripped, so I got 2 more, just so I could tighten them both down, and that should help you to unscrew these if they get stuck in those pins. So after that, show y'all what I did. So I don't know if this is what you're supposed to do, but I used this. It's just a brass piece I had laying around. So I used this to get it flush, so it would sit to right here. And then I actually had a screw from the KWI kit here. I'm not really sure what this was supposed to be for, but it worked great to push those pins the rest of the way in using that same punch. So that's how I got them back in. Everything went well. I would definitely recommend the Whelen removal tool. I think G-Boost has a similar one. So, because using a hammer, unless you have two people holding it down, it's gonna be hard to do. So that Whelen tool is basically a press, and it just presses it out, which makes it nice. All right, so once you have everything pushed back down, how it's supposed to, you gotta put your cam screws back in. So this is how I put the all thread bolt upside down, squeeze it in the vise, and then you torque those down to 45 foot-pounds. Just hold it with your arm and then torque them down. And then you can let off on your spring and you're good to go.